Hey everybody, Texas Stroker here, Lance's Performance Shop, LoneStarMoPliers.com. This Sunday evening, and it is hot. There's thunder in the distance. Don't know if you can see that, but that circle at the top, that's our weather. It's 106 right now, and it's pretty freaking hot here in the shop too. So if you hear a hum in the distance, that's a fan. I'm not even going to apologize for that. But, needless to say, I need the box that we're about to go through. I've had this one sitting around because I've got tool hauls stacked, just absolutely stacked up for you. But I need this box to put a distributor in to take to the machine shop tomorrow. So I figured, hey, kill two birds with one stone. And there's also one of these that I've really been wanting to use, and I kind of want to get it out. Sometimes, actually most of the time, I will go ahead and use the tool, but in this case I wanted to present them pristine as issued, and then we'll take it from there. So without further ado, still rocking the Alpha gloves, discount code down below. I make nothing off of that. I've been wearing these gloves for close to a year now, and I've got the really nice fancy leather impact ones at work. They're filthy, but they're still intact, and that's what's important. So little ones here and my red impacts that you typically see. The red ones are also filthy. That's why we're kind of rocking these. But anyway, fantastic gloves, zero complaints. Use the code LoneStar and save 20%. So KC tool haul number 40, that is insane. Now later this week we should be getting what will be 43. I may have to put that one and one after it out of order, just because there's some new really cool stuff. And I'll tell you, I'm recording this right now July 12th 2020, hence the 106 degrees, but we exceeded the $100 threshold. That netted us the German tool sticker pack. These are pretty cool, got tons of them. We'll eventually do something with them. As with every order, regardless of how big or small, you get a bit of thanks. We are back to the Philo number 2 bits, which I actually happen to really like. They're the ones that are also stamped with KC tool. You've seen them a million times if you've been on the channel, so we don't need to jump into that. Now, I'm not quite sure what number the tool haul was, but I had ordered, I was trying to put together, you know, like a nice little toolbox, if you will, for the vehicles, probably the truck, not 100% sure. Not necessarily the truck now because we can't drive it because we don't have an engine in it. That's another story for another day. Ram Revival plugged every Wednesday on YouTube. But, I was excited because I ordered in the Gedore pliers, and I love Gedore's dipped handle. I'm not talking channel lock dip, I'm talking the texture dip. I absolutely love it. The blue stands out if I were to leave it on pavement, if it was dark. It's like a perfect storm for me. I like the grip, I like the finish, I liked the price. As is what they shipped me, it was the red dipped handles. Those are gone. Didn't use them. We've sent them back. Sometimes, you know, they've admitted they sometimes do get blue dipped. Sometimes they send those out. It's kind of, I guess, a crapshoot. But anyway, I needed to replace those, and I thought, you know what? What is one of the most comfortable handles that's not going to break the bank and should get the job done for me on the road and on the go, and that is right here from NWS. So we picked up 2 pliers. Obviously we were kind of replicating what we had. I think that's the first time I've returned something to KC Tools. Might have been the second, I don't know. Who can keep track of this, in all honesty? But NWS, if you have never used their pliers, you're going to have a couple of different options. They have a decent textured grip as well, but their price points to upgrade to kind of their top of the line grip, which is sort of this red and silver sci-fi look, which by the way is actually what I would deem a comfort grip. A lot of times people use comfort grip and it just kind of means it's a 2 component. It might be super hard and not comfortable at all. These are actually comfortable, and I've used them quite a bit. Not obviously these, they're brand new, but I haven't had any deterioration or degradation with the finish or anything. I'm sure over time it'll happen. We'll kind of try to keep tabs on it, particularly like when my hand is filthy in a glove and then it transfers to the, you know, pair of pliers. We'll see how it goes. But essentially right here we've got part number in 109 69 165. That is going to be our high leverage combo pliers, and they are going to be soft grip, Titan finish, right? So they've got the matte chromium, which that's kind of what you have up here, and yes, I keep these on the bench so I make myself use them. The more you use them, the more you get used to them and appreciate them. And if you're unsure on those, it's kind of an ergonomic deal. Like if you had to use pliers all day in a shift work type scenario, that is something that your hands and wrists in particular would eventually thank you for. So but this right here is the opposite. That's the Titan finish. It's usually a few bucks cheaper than the matte chromium. Kind of just depends on the price point, I suppose, the product itself. $25.03 would be your standard price on these. And then conjoined with that, we have part number 140-69-170, and that would be the 6 3/4 inch chain nose pliers, or as I still refer to them, snipe nose. So, or needle nose is what I call. Snipe nose is what most German companies refer to. But these are pretty nice. These will have the cutting function just like those. That's important for a multifaceted tool. These grip nuts really well down in the lower regions. They've not super aggressive jaws, but at the same time I haven't torn them up yet to where we've lost the teeth. And so these, again, I was going to go with the Gedore blue, and it just didn't work out for me. Now the cool thing with these combo pliers, if you had to, I'm trying to think of a scenario like maybe a I don't know, a radiator hose blows off or something happens, you've got like something corroding away, you can kind of ream stuff with these. You know, obviously it's going to need to be a decent size. You couldn't like come in on 5/16 or 3/8 fuel line, but anything else you can kind of adjust it, just pin your fingers in there to the size you need and ream out. Again, on the side of the road, that could be a big deal. So those are also, again, a little bit smaller than everything else I've brought in. Again, trying to keep things compact but functional, and we'll perfect that as we go. So what do we want to jump to now? I think we're gonna save the pristine item, right? That'll probably be the last thing we cover. Good time to mention timestamps are down below. If you want to spoil it, if you don't want to wait and be surprised, if you want to know what it is and skip to it, feel free. I do put timestamps not only with the tool, but with a link to KC tool and the price that we paid for it, or it's typically listed at. So on that note, I think we're going to come in with this. All right, we're going to go to Gedore since we were talking about them. Let's see, is this the part number? It actually is. How convenient. So this thing right here, part number 143684, set me back 1180, and you're thinking, wow, Gedore for 1180, what is that? You know, oh, I see you've got an extension right there. That's pretty cool. Let's check it out. Well, it's not actually an extension. It's not really gonna be used by me for what I think they intended it to be used for. But this is a double-ended 14mm socket wrench. Now, I know a lot of you are thinking like, socket wrench, idiot? What are you gonna do with that? And then the rest of you are like, 14mm? No. You're the old school American guy. Why would you get 14mm metric of all things? You didn't get a set? You don't have other sizes? And the answer is no. And to follow up to that, for the metric question, 6 point, by the way, as you can see on the broaching there, but the follow up to 14mm, that would transfer roughly to 9/16. And on the front end, you know, essentially on the truck, 5.2 Magnum. The engine dates back, it would be classic LA 318, 340, 360 stuff, right? So anything on the block is typically SAE, 3/8, 9/16, whatever it might be, you know, that you're going to need. When you get to the throttle body, you get to like the later editions, you know, in 80, 90, whenever they modified things, 92 when they introduced it, you jump in and you have some metric stuff. And so I don't know if my old, you got to keep in mind, my sockets are primarily Craftsman. That's what I grew up with. It's what I have. It's what I still use. And there are situations where I come in and I've got manuals, I've got books, and they don't ever spec out sizes. Like, I don't know why you take the time to dismantle a vehicle, throw it back together, take pictures, and then you don't tell the end user, you know, like, hey, you're going to need 8, you know, 3/8 by 1 1/4 grade 8 bolts for this. They're just like, remove the bolts, reinstall the bolts. And to me, that's a waste of time. It doesn't tell you anything. If you break a stud, if you broke a bolt, if you lost a bolt, whatever it might be, it's of zero use to you. And essentially, where this comes from is I sit there and I wonder, like, okay, is the front cover, is it SAE or metric, right? And so if you've got a bolt that requires, a 1/2 inch, you can usually get a 13 on it. And if you got a 9/16, you can get a 14 on it. And if you've got a 5/8 socket, you can probably put a 16 millimeter on it. And so many times on the truck, what I thought would be correct, I found that the opposite socket fit better. Even being the case with some of the metric stuff, it seemed like the 9/16 fit. Now, my 14 millimeter socket, the 16 millimeter socket, those don't see much use at all. Prior to this endeavor with the truck, I've never really had to do much. The oil pan bolt was 5/8, and that's about all she ever required, right? It was just basic service. The catch is, though, when I was coming in and hitting everything, I found that I would often just cycle between them, and I do believe that there's going to be quite a bit of wear. I mean, I'm telling you, those sockets that I have from Craftsman, it's all I've used, particularly 3/8 being the most common size, since I was, 14, 15, right? So, a couple decades later now, and it's still what I'm using, and I thought, well, maybe that's why, the metric's fitting better, the Tectons that I would grab would kind of fit different, and they both would get the job done, but again, it's like, well, this doesn't help me, determine what's correct, right? So that's where I came in with this. Obviously, this is a product like so many wonderful German tools. I can get it in metric, but you can't get it in SAE. And so my thoughts were, well, I think the front cover stuff is 14 and it'll work for my 9/16 stuff. Let's do it. And the plan with this guy is to get me into some tight spots. And believe you me, we found plenty of them. Again, check the Ram Revival out if you're interested. But I'm kind of hoping that this might be like a bell housing hero. And if any of you ever do your own work, or maybe you're a professional mechanic in a commercial setting, you can probably relate when I say bell housing, and you just, oh no, I see why you're buying this random stuff, trying to get better access to it. And so we got 2 points of contact here. On this front, if I could get in with a tight space, particularly on the passenger side where I had some issues, we would orient it this way. I could possibly break her free this way. The other thing, if you'll note, there's a hole here. This is something I need to order one of the Tommy bars for, because essentially I can slide a Tommy bar through. That's just basically a metal rod, if you're unaware. And I can treat this as a T-handle. I can also then use that to generate a lot of torque and break the fastener free. So this, while it's odd, while it's intended probably for a total different application, that's what I'm going to try with it. And one of two things will happen. It'll work amazing and I'll be, applauding myself and my logic, or it will be a complete fail and I don't really know what I'll do with a 14 millimeter socket wrench. So that's where we stand there. Following suit with this item, which again was $11.80, they're pretty reasonable. If this is something and you see it and you're like, oh, I could use those. The good news for you is they're actually affordable. That's $11.80 from KC Tool, imported from Germany, made in Germany. So take advantage of that. Now this next item was about double the price. It was $24.16. It is Gedore's part number 1981, or through KC Tool. You could find it under 614-3270. And I'm sure for most of you that's not gonna ring a bell. It's right here. And you're thinking, oh, that's the Tommy bar. And it's like, no, it looks a little too big for that, buddy. I know you would be 100% correct, but if you take a look at that end, you can kind of see what I'm doing, right? This I love. I don't know what it is. I realize most people prefer the, mirror finished polished stuff. I really like the matte finish on things. It's just something I prefer. But this has definitely got a matte finish. But if you notice, it's got a 1/2 inch square drive. And what this is, it's kind of like, think of this as a fixed position breaker bar, right? And my issue, and this is something, again, most of you can probably relate to, particularly if you do not have a lift and you're working on your back. Well, let's come in and let's take this Craftsman socket, all right? We got our 5/8. That's as small as my 1/2 inch stuff. That fits wonderful. But again, there's your contrast, chrome versus matte chrome. Take your pick there. But anyway, I come in and all my breaker bars swivel, right? The new Capri one I brought in, the Proto, which I almost use exclusively, the Giant Harbor Freight, which has actually saved me multiple times. It's 2 feet long, so it should be capable of some of that. But here's what happens, right? So maybe I'm trying to attack from the top side, right? Standing on a step stool draped in the engine bay. I set it up, and then I'm going to jump down off the stool, get under the truck as fast as I can, try to grab the handle and go to town. Well, so many times with that you know, swivel on the breaker bar, it'll just drop down, it'll neck down. I'll need to reposition. I'll be like killing a nerve in my shoulder on the creeper. You know, numerous issues, which again, if you do have a lift, I think you could avoid some of this. But this is a deal where this is fixed. Okay, if I get this onto the bolt or the nut, it's going to stay there. It's far less likely, you know, with our other one where gravity is just going to take over and cling to cling, drop it on the ground as I'm like pivoting on the creeper. That's all I want from this. The other thing, this was something, if this gets chewed up by a breaker bar, I don't care, right? So think of this as like a 3/8 Stahlwille ratchet. It's got the nice padded handle or your snap-on or whatever you rock. If you put a cheater bar on this, it's going to dig into your little comfort grip handle and tear it up prematurely, right? With this, I don't care. I really don't. If I can size, you know, whatever I'm slipping over the top and then get another one on it and it chews into it on one side and creates a gash right there, zero issues. If I have to come in and hit it with sandpaper to get a burr off of it so I don't cut my hand, I don't care. This is a little shorter than would be ideal, but at the same time that'll get me into tighter spaces. And so that's what we're going to do. I wanted a 3/8 one as well to kind of scale down in case I needed that. It was out of stock, and I plan to just pick it up if it's ever in stock. It's kind of one of those wish list items. But right there you can see the part number 1981K. It's from Gedore, and this is made in Germany. So works really well. You can see the great fitment there. Now, these are the Tecton sockets. I did the video on these. I believe it's been released at this point in time, a couple of weeks ago, I think. But I've been using them quite a bit. Obviously, they were brand new. And just to kind of put emphasis on this, the way they do it, they don't even give you a 5/8 and a 16 millimeter. All right, they give you the combination, so it's not like you get two separate. They've since come out with like non-skip size sets, which, you know, that wasn't a thing when I placed my order, but you can see the wear and tear from just pulling the engine and a couple of other, you know, smaller, way smaller jobs, but kind of taking the finish off. But again, that's what I'm getting at. You know, with my Craftsman sockets, they're what I've used like exclusively for the majority of my life. And so I'm sitting here and I'm thinking like, okay, hey, am I like wearing that down? Is that why it's gripping different and the metric grabs better? And then weirdly enough, when I think something's supposed to be like 13 or 14 millimeter, I can come into my 1/2 or 9/16 and it grips better. So it's strange, but I'm trying to figure it out, trying to make do. And these two items are hopefully gonna help me pull that off. So obviously, if you're curious why I invested in the 14 for the 9/16, that's because there's more of them. There's significantly more of them, and they're all in terrible places that make my life a nightmare. And I hope that they help me out. So moving on from there, what do we want to get to? You know, I think this is a nice tie-in. We're going to start with this. True story, sad to admit, I don't have very many long extensions, right? I kind of have what came with my Master Craftsman sit back in the late 90s, right? So it's probably 6" would be your top dog right there. And so you go on, and of course, believe you me, I mean, I would buy Snap-on, I would buy Mac and Matco if their prices were a little better. Particularly with sockets, I have a hard time feeling I should invest big bucks in sockets and or extensions. But that's what I have done here. This is from Heyco. It is going to be, let's see if we can find a shorter part number for you. I guess we can't. It's going to be a 0500550. So 0500 at 550. It is a 250 millimeter, or I believe that what 10" extension right there for 1/2" drive, and it's Wobble based, right? So that'll give me a little leeway on the top end. And I got to tell you, as with the vast majority of Heyco products I have brought in, I see nothing wrong with this thing, particularly when you consider the price point. You're thinking, okay, well, what did you pay for that? You know, it's Heyco, it's from Germany, it's imported, you picked it up from KC Tool. You know, I think it's probably a total rip. And it's not. I actually don't have the price because I referenced it on my sheet last night. I'll try to get that towards the end, but it's not near as bad as you think it is. Again, right there you can see the shorter part number, 50055. But look at that. That thing itself is longer than both the 14 millimeter socket wrench and our 1/2" fixed angle breaker. So I'm excited to add that to the mix, to say the least. I think it will come in very useful for me, and if nothing else, I don't have to put 6, 6, 3, 3. That's what I was doing. I kind of would run adapters, and then I'd have like my 6 inches and then another 6 and a 3. Not very often, but there were multiple times, and this should get me a little closer to where I want to be. Ultimately though, we can test this, see how we like it, and then know, hey, we need to find a different brand or get me some more of that, because it's a great deal. In fact, while I'm thinking about it, let's just pull the old phone out of the back pocket here. Surprised it works as hot as it is. Gotta go to KC Tool, search for that. All right, price right now for this sucker, $15.40. All right. You can get stuff cheaper, you know, Summit, Harbor Freight, lumber yards, big box stores, whatever, but this I feel like is a quality piece, made in Germany, as you can see there, and for 15 bucks, I don't think we're doing that bad. So it's one of the bee's knees, if you will. It's a good length. It's not like the ridiculous, absurd lengths that you would expect to pay more for, but it's also, you know, not a 6 or a 4 or a 3 or a 2. So pretty excited to add that to the mix. And on that front, this is something, like I told you, I'm not a big proponent of investing heavily in sockets. They're kind of like a wear item in my opinion, right? And I think I'm getting to the point where we might have to replace some of mine. But I have a part number here for you. It is 60304. This is made in Germany. Right here you can see it says VH, and it's a 1/2 inch drive 9/16 socket. If I flip it over, you're going to see the Heyco part number from KC Tool of I think it's just HYO for Heyco, and then 500 325, right? So I'm with a 12 point because that saves me a lot of trouble. I'm a 6 point guy, I'm not gonna lie, but I'm only a 6 point guy when I can actually get to the bolt. If I can see the bolt, if it's obstructed, the 12 point is the way to go. You give yourself double the opportunity to grab onto the landing. So there's been multiple little sets I've considered bringing in over the years to try out. The only German, Czech, whatever you want to call it, European sockets I have are from Vera. We do have some of their Taiwan impacts, but if you go back farther than that, I've got some of their tiny 1/4 inch stuff, and it's from the Czech Republic. And they're fairly reasonable. I like the Take It Easy tool finder. Haven't been like overwhelmed by them at the same time, but they also don't suck. So it's sort of like a middle ground tool. The price is right, you get them type of a deal. But if you want to spend some money, so you come in and you look at Hazette and Stahlwille sockets, man, and then you think, well, geez, you know, I'll just screw that. You know, let's just go American for SAE, get some Snap-on stuff or something. And then you're like, wow, what a great deal for that Hazette socket set. And that's sort of where I stand. And my big deal is I don't want to shell out tons of money for a set of something when I'm doing it blindly, right? Like if it was a $40 set of 8 screwdrivers, that's not a big loss. If I'm getting 12 or 14 sockets and I'm having to spend $300 or $400, that to me is a huge purchase, and it's something that I want and hope to use for decades. You know, not like a year and then they have to be replaced. I want good life out of them. And that's where this comes in. This is kind of my trial piece. Like I told you, why 14, why 9/16? Because it's what I ran into all the time. It was nightmare situations in many cases. But without dragging it on any farther, this is what we have. Now, VH has recently come out with ratchets and sockets. Be leery though if you're all about, you know, German tools. Those are Taiwan. That said, I think you can get a pretty good product out of Taiwan. Most of the time it comes down to quality control. But it's one of those deals, I'll possibly try them. I think you have to get them as sets right now. But this is something I was intrigued by. It's Heyco Germany. I like the knurling on the socket. Kind of helps you grab and grip it a little bit better. Got the 9/16 there. And again, I went with a 1/2 inch drive just to play with all of this stuff, right? So let's check it out on their Wobble. So keep in mind when we check the fitment here, that's pretty legit, I have to say. I mean, again, if you saw, which if you watch the Ram Revival, you'll see me attempt to film some of these angles. You will know why I'm so passionate about this. All 4 sides have the catch in them. That's a pretty solid fit right here on our 1/2 inch break bar. Now, do note that this is fully polished. that's fine, not the end of the world. In fact, on sockets, I think I kind of prefer, I wouldn't want them to be matte. I don't think. It's just, I guess I'm so used to it. Of course, for me, this is hand tool, black finish is impact, you know the drill. But I was pretty excited to try this out, and this is just something that I know when I start the reinstallation, I'm going to use the snot out of it every single chance I get. This is the 9/16 socket we will use. That will allow me to very quickly, as soon as I've reinstalled the motor in the truck, come back in, check this thing out, see how it goes. And by the way, for those of you watching the Ram Revival, Dyno Day was yesterday. It was even hotter. So the motor, I'm not going to tell you what it is or what it was or what it made, but I was pretty happy with it. I think you'll be impressed by it. And it should be coming back this week. So main thing, I got to get my distributor down there, which again, that's why I needed this box. It's like a perfect fit. I'm going to get it down to the machine shop. We're going to try to dial in the fuel sync. Obviously on the dyno we ran a carburetor, and if we can get the fuel sync pretty close, I should be able to fire it up. Might wind up having to tune things, who knows, but then we can come out and set it later with the scan tool regardless. So if you have used Heyco sockets, how have they held up for you? If you invested when VHA came out with the new, if you will, socket sets and ratchets, how have the sockets held up? I'm not as interested in the ratchet. Taiwan can make a good ratchet. I'm interested in the sockets. Keep in mind, all my Craftsman stuff is still old enough to have been US based, so not necessarily the best in the world, but pretty good in retrospect. So let me know, because like I said, sockets are just one of those things. It's hard for me to feel I should shell out $300 to $500 for like 14 pieces. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Who knows? That's how I feel. So, sticking with the Heyco front, let's go ahead and do that. By the way, we are nearing the end here. One of my favorite Heyco tools, which I can't stress this enough. If you are on the fence about these, bring one in. If you're like me and you use 14 millimeter, or you want 13, 15, 17, 19, whatever you want to do, 10 millimeter, 13 millimeter, bring one of these in your most frequently used size, and whatever size you've lost a wrench or it's wearing out or you broke it. Give these a shot. I think you'll be impressed. All the time you're going to see, Stahlwille wrenches, Hazette, the Jokers, everything. This is something that doesn't get talked about, and I don't really know why. To date, I think I'm the only person I've seen with videos on them. Granted, I haven't had a lot of free time to check everywhere else, but I absolutely love these. I told you, over time, as I place orders, I'm going to try to kind of complete the set. And this is another one of those things. This is like metric only in this line. They don't do SAE. If they did, I would have them. So I'm just going to throw them down right here. These are Heyco's Maxlines. What I picked up here was 16, 17, and 19. So 17 obviously for metric. The 16, you think, oh, you're not going to use that much. Again, what am I going to use that with? 5/8 stuff. That's my plan with it, and that's what we're going to do. So I think I already had 14, 13, 10, maybe some others in there. Don't hold me to that. But let's run over these real quick. I'll go ahead and get them out of the bag. Our 16 millimeter, that is going to be your part number 4, 100, 160. The price point on this one is going to be $13.72. Again, in my opinion, considering the experiences I've had with these wrenches firsthand, that's fantastic. Now, these are going to have a little bit of a polish to them. It's sort of their like dressier, top of the line wrench, if you will. Nothing crazy goes on with the heads on any of these. There are no flank drive or wave or bite points or anything. It's just traditional, old school. Offset box end, which I love. If you run into situations where you need new box end wrenches, make this your set, the offset ones, because it's a super nice wrench. This is something that I feel, like if you were to go to a Snap-on or a Mac person and throw matte finish Stahlwilles at them, they might balk at it, like, oh, it's too thin, or ooh, look how thin it is. These aren't going to be the thinnest wrenches. They're not going to be the matte chrome finish or anything, but they're pretty dadgum good, I gotta say. So they're stamped. You got the number indicated here on both sides in the circle. Now their SAE stuff doesn't seem to be maintained as well. Some stuff I brought in, which again, sadly, they don't offer the Maxline in SAE, but you've seen some of the stuff and you can barely see it, and then you go to the metric and it's like perfectly visible. But it just is what it is there. So that's our 16. This right here, Heyco 4100170. All right, so at some point the card just timed out on me, so I don't know where it did it. So I'm just going to cover this again. This is a 17 millimeter. It is part number 4100170. It'll set you back $14.18. Hopefully that's about all we missed. I couldn't tell you. It would be nice if the camera had like an audible beep to alert you that you've exceeded the 29-minute mark where it stops off. But again, there's our 17, and then right here, this will be primarily metric, I assume, the 19 millimeter Heyco 4100190. Price point on this one, which is a fairly large wrench, you know, for standard affair, common issue stuff, $16.72. So we'll drop that down, throw that to the side, and again, the bigger the wrench, the better it is to see the details outside of the glare. So again, this is not their standard wrenches that you see me brought in SAE wise, but this is just the deep offset, which again, if you do a lot, particularly, you know, motor stuff, you really start to appreciate that. Kind of gets you in some tight spaces comfortably, if you will. And I gotta say, I told you, I'm a man of my word. I told you, as time allows and orders require free freight, I'm just going to toss these in from time to time until we complete the set. And that's exactly what we did. So moving on, we've got our final item. This could have been tool of the day. Something would have had to have prompted me to do this. And it was either going to be one of these pairs and then I just pulled the trigger on the other, or it was, I feel like it was these. Again, my apologies. This came in quite some time ago, so that's one of those deals. This is from Stahlwille. This is their part number 6501. Current price would be $40.03. Again, I'm inclined to say this was tool of the day, but like I said, don't hold me to it. This has been unopened. It's something I've wanted to use many, many times, but I restrained. I held back for you, and I'm going to pull it out of the glorious bag right here. So there's the bag. Just cut her open. Again, 6501. And I gotta tell you, I'm super excited to try these out. What are they? Well, let's make this dramatic. Okay, pliers, yes, green, Stahlwille, head, combination pliers, nice. And that's the gist of it. I'm pretty sure these were the tool of the day, but I wanted simply to kind of give all of them a fair shake. With their snipe nose pliers I have, they've kind of flash rusted. I wasn't like super impressed by them. I don't know if it's like a VBW spin-off type of thing or what. But these I felt like I would use a little more frequently since they are a larger size. The snipe nose I got from Stahlwille are pretty small. But this is something I wanted to try out, and I have to admit, just like with VHA and Knipex, I really do like their textured dipped handle. This will also allow me to showcase their different handle styles to you at some point in time. But right there you can see the head. We flip her over, we come in, cross our fingers just right. 650-16160, made in Germany, Stahlwille logo there. Let's crack them open. How do they do? Not bad. I was hearing some strange noises in there. Okay, so it's not, Knipex smooth or anything, but that to me has never been a huge deal. If you really want to impress yourself with something stiff, buy a pair of the Fit shears. I'll just say that. Which, those things are actually pretty cool. I know a lot of people knock them. I literally do prune with them. That's what I primarily use them for. I've been pretty stoked with them. But right there you can kind of see our multifunction zone where we can grip. Teeth look pretty decent on the head there. Again, main thing, we'll just be seeing how long they hold up. Cutter looks decent. The snipe nose that I got from them, first task I threw at them was just cutting cable ties. I was hanging some banners, and they didn't seem too happy with that, so I wasn't super impressed there. Do like the handle, but I wanted to give them a fair shake before I just condemn Stahlwille's pliers, and so that's kind of what this is. This is their big hope, right? Before I just completely write them off and don't consider them for pliers. So this is not quite as tacky as VHA's textured grip, which I gotta say, VHA's textured grip people sleep on their pliers, and I don't know why. They've got a really good soft grip, they've got a really good texture grip in my opinion. But ultimately, this is for me to kind of be using in the background and see what I think of them, how it compares to others. I try to give equal use to these kind of behind the scenes, because the truth of the matter is, I mean, I could come in here, throw crud in the vise, and just grab on them and spin them, put them through torture tests or something, but that's not what you would do in the real world per se. You know, granted, sometimes I have to do stuff like that at work, but typically here, not the case, just around the shop doing automotive stuff. So I just kind of want to give them a fair shake in, you know, daily use, you know, hobbyist type situations. Maybe I throw them at a, you know, job type of a deal if we're going to do, I don't know, rewiring of one of the cars, or, you know, a fuel pump or something. Maybe I throw these and then throw a pair of Fizettes and see which one I like better and why. But that's basically what will be happening behind the scenes. So that is it for KC Tool Haul number 40. We have a nice round out to our Maxline set. Again, I'll probably continue picking a few of these up, particularly like for free freight. I think we're at a point now where I have most of the sizes I would need on a regular basis. But again, like I said, you know, if there's ever like a tool of the day that's like $35 and I'm like, man, I don't know what to get, I think, should we do another screwdriver? And then it's probably no. And we come in and I'll say, hey, you know, get me a, you know, 18 or a 16 or whatever Maxline wrench, throw it on there, get free freight, and come out better on the back end. So very happy with these that I've used so far. The Heyco extension, impressed so far again. It's priced way better than some of their competition, so we'll see how it goes. You know, I'm a guy that grew up and still uses Craftsman, so, you know, it's not like I have the bee's knees or top of the line stuff to compare it to. I just know what works for me. Similarly, I'm going to test out this socket. We will know, assuming I get the motor back this week. Installation is going to start immediately. It's still going to be in the hundreds. I don't care. As soon as I get home from work, start throwing that thing back in the truck. And we will, again, exclusively use that at least in the 1/2-inch drive size. So moving on, this will hopefully be a miracle worker. This, yeah, it's more of like a 50-50 shot, you know. I feel pretty confident in this one, like 60-40 this. It's totally a crapshoot, but I'm willing to give her a go. And again, right here are 2 pairs of NWS's, just something for an on-the-road box, if you will. So with that said, this is what we brought in for a KC Tool Haul number 40. Crazy to believe we're on number 40. It's also crazy to believe we have more than German tool reviews. Again, he's still on hiatus, at least last I know as of recording this. Hopefully he's doing well. If you want more KC Tool Hauls, if you want to see not only the tool hauls, but things tested thoroughly, explained in different detail than I use, can't tell you, check out German Tool Reviews if you're unaware of his channel. I think you will definitely enjoy it. It'll keep you entertained for quite some time. And there's a lot of cool stuff that's come out recently, so it'd be interesting to see his take on some of it. But hopefully he will be back soon. But again, if you need some filler in the downtime and you're unaware of his channel, check it out. Sometimes when you're like inactive, YouTube sort of buries you. And you know, even if you have like exacting terms in the title, they're bad about that. But if you didn't know about him, now you do. Check it out. Again, he was doing this long before I was, and I think it's important that you recognize those that came before you. So with that said, LoneStarMopars.com is the website. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, whichever you prefer. Once more, my apologies on the fan, but truth be told, sorry not sorry. It is 94 in the shop, if you want to know. So probably it's cooled off a little outside. It's probably only 104 or so, but it's 94 in here when I work. So with that said, I'm going to try to crank out another one. Got to remember to grab my distributor for tomorrow. And with that said, I will catch you back here for more from the shop.